ZANU-PF has confirmed sacked Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa will be in office as interim president of the party within 48 hours. This follows Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe's resignation. In what comes as a surprise to many, the 93-year-old handed over his resignation to the Speaker of the Zimbabwean Parliament. The surprise announcement comes as lawmakers debated an impeachment motion against the 93-year-old leader at a joint sitting of Parliament. Mugabe had previously refused to resign despite last week's military takeover and days of protests against his rule. He has been in power since independence of Zimbabwe in 1980.
Following my verbal communication with the Speaker of the National Assembly, Advocate Jacob Mudenda, at 13:53 hours, 21st November 2017, intimating my intention to resign as the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, I, Robert Gabriel Mugabe, in terms of Section 96, subsection 1 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, hereby formally tender my resignation as the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe with immediate effect.
Immediately after the announcement of the resignation of Robert Mugabe, thunderous celebrations erupted in the streets of Harare as people sang and chanted. Zimbabweans holding up flags hugged each other while crying and singing.
A bright future, because we have all it takes to have the best economy in the world. Yes. We have the minerals, we've got the land, we have got the skills, we have got learned people, our people are educated, and the people are hard workers. You can see how they work. They work in America, they work in South Africa, they are the best breed. Even if they are cleaners, they clean the best. Yes. So what do you expect from such kind of people? Yes. Right, in their own country, given the opportunity that you've been given today, we thank the Lord for that.
We are celebrating and we encourage Zimbabweans to work as family of friends and pursue economic development. Enough is enough, and now is the time we must draw a line that enhances our country to become one of the great nations in the world.
Mugabe has overstayed his welcome. It's time ago. I've been fighting for this since I was born. Me, I'm a graduate, but I haven't been employed for 5 years right now. So I'm very happy that Mugabe is gone. And I bet there is new government is coming to guarantee employment for me. So I thank the Lord for what he has done for me.
Let him go finally, okay? It's okay. Let me leave, okay? I'm finally happy. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus Christ. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
There were jubilant scenes on the streets of Johannesburg too. Zimbabweans living in South Africa came out on the streets celebrating the exit of Mugabe. Let's take a look at celebrations that came in from Hillbrow.
I'm very happy with all the Zimbabweans in South Africa and all over the world. I'm sure even people who are not Zimbabweans, they are very happy. We have been suffering because of this man. For 37 years, we didn't have peace, we didn't have democracy, we didn't have a lot of things. But today, Jabula, I'm happy. And it is independence. After 37 years, we are very happy as Zimbabweans. Most people here are working in restaurants as domestic workers, but they've got certificates. These people are learned. These people, they've got certificates, degrees, diplomas. But because of Mugabe, they are just like treated like blue-collar jobs in South Africa and most countries in the world.
I'm very happy. And the man is gone. We've been suffering for years. Years we've been suffering. Now we're gonna go home. We're very happy.
Just want Robert Mugabe gone. From there, that's where we're going to step. That's our first step forward after Robert Mugabe.
Very happy with his resignation. I'm happy for New Zimbabwe. And as you see right now, we are still in the street celebrating for Mugabe. I think he have done a good job to resign and give young guys a chance to lead Zimbabwe. So welcome to New Zimbabwe.
On behalf of the Zimbabwean youth who reside in South Africa, we want to say thank you to the military people. Without you, we were not going to succeed in taking Mr. Mugabe out. So we thank you. Our potentials are being buried in cemeteries because we are oppressed in foreign countries. And now we're going to get that opportunity to go and enjoy our citizen benefits.
I'm very grateful and fulfilled that President Robert Mugabe has resigned for a long time. Yeah, we have to go back home and then we take it down and look for another job. Because here we're struggling here, you see.
I'm feeling very grateful because Robert Mugabe is no more the president of Zimbabwe. I'm very, very much happy. I can't even wait to go back home. I need to have job creation in Zimbabwe and also for that our kids will also go to school nicely so that we will not have any problems in Zimbabwe.
Speaking to ANN7, both the ruling party ZANU-PF and opposition PDP explained the way ahead for Zimbabwe.
It should not be a wholesome change in order to make sure that we have the youth. The youth should be given time to understand those that have been doing the job, and eventually they will be able to take over and run the country. In the new dispensation, we are going to ensure that policies that we put in place are implemented, which is one of the things that the outgoing president lamented also.
Well, African Diaspora Forum chairperson Mark Baffour joins us on the phone line. Bonjour, Mark. Thank you so much for joining us. Just tell us what your reaction is to President Robert Mugabe's resignation.
The resignation of President Mugabe is a relief. We all know that after Monday, people were asking themselves what will happen. Today, it's a done deal that the country is free. There is a hope for peace. There is a hope for policy change. There is hope for electoral reform. There is hope that Zimbabweans reunite after so many decades. Some Zimbabweans born 7 years ago have never seen another president. And today, they are celebrating because there is an independence in Zimbabwe, and perhaps they do one. In the African Diaspora Forum, we think that we set a very strong message to all dictators of our continent. The resignation and the celebration on the street of Harare, Bulawayo, and so on shows that our continent doesn't need any dictator. That era is an era that we've been waiting for. And I think all dictators of our continent should prepare to leave their countries and allow new blood to come in and revive the economy of our different continents. Africa has some potential. We can grow our continent, the economy of our continent. We can give hope to our people. And we can have a beautiful continent which will attract investment. And that's what we will be seeing in Zimbabwe.
Well, Mark, do you think it's advisable for President Mugabe to actually remain in Zimbabwe, or should he perhaps relocate to another country?
Look, Robert Mugabe resigned at last. So I think the new authorities should make sure that he lives in the country if he wants, and he can also be a resource person to the country. When he was in power, he was a dictator, but he might, he's been leading the country for 37 years. He might represent something that the new authorities need to continue the work and also to be able to enlighten the country. So we definitely sure that Robert Mugabe should be in the country, living in the country, unless maybe he doesn't want.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Vuka Africa and for your comment. That was the African Diaspora Forum chairperson, Mark Baffour, on the phone line, letting us know that they are relieved that Robert Mugabe has stepped down, that it is indeed a new dawn for Zimbabwe, and that if he feels like it, he should stay on to live in his country.